Yes.
And, I often say to them, what's the worst thing that can happen? Right. So most of them like, well, it could not work out. Okay. So think about a time when something that you really wanted didn't work out. Hold that thought. And then think about what may have happened or what happened after that. Like sometimes the things that we don't want, sometimes the things that we want to work out, when they don't work out, there's often another door that opens that's even better.
That's so
Or
cool. Yeah.
sometimes you learn something about yourself that helps prepare you for that next level.
Yeah.
So it all goes back to self-awareness and being honest
Yeah.
with what you're feeling, because your feelings, they are valid, but at the same time they're not always true.
Mm. Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to Unapologetically 50 Plus. My name is Angela. So, today's conversation I know will speak to your spirit. I'm sitting down with Crystal Lee, an executive leadership and life coach, speaker, and the founder of Crystally Clear Group. She helps people step into their power, guiding professionals, entrepreneurs, and everyday leaders to move through change with clarity, confidence, and purpose. But what I love about Crystal's work is how grounded and real she is. She doesn't just talk about transformation, she helps people live it. Her approach blends strategy with soul, and she has this way of helping you see what's possible even when life feels uncertain. So, we're talking about leadership, resilience, and what it really means to show up for yourself in life, and not just in your career, but in how you see yourself and the impact you make every day. But before we get started, I have one huge favor to ask. If you find any value or enjoy the content, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can also follow me on Spotify. So thank you. I truly appreciate your support. All right, let's get this conversation started. Hey, Crystal, how you doing, love?
I'm well, Angela. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So thank you so much for coming on. We've tried to get it scheduled earlier, but I'm glad we still got you in here before the year is out. So you're going to be my last interview for the year. So thank you for coming on and showing up for me. So let's start with I did a little introduction of you. Is there anything that you want to add to that? I try and leave the introductions to my guests if they have more they want to elaborate on. So, is there anything else you want to share with the audience about you?
Oh, you did an excellent job in just introducing who I am. I'm Crystal Lee, founder and CEO of Crystal Lee Clear Group. And I am excited to have this opportunity to be here with you, Angela, as one of your guests who's under 50, but I am honored to have this opportunity.
Okay. So let's start with you've spent over 17 years in leadership and development and mindset transformation. So, what first inspired your passion for helping others unlock their potential?
Thank you. So, my passion for helping others started long before I
Mhm.
had the language of leadership. It started with what I witnessed and what I lived.
Okay.
It really began early for me, watching my mother as a leader, as an entrepreneur. I saw her pour into others, create opportunities, and lead with both strength and heart. That experience planted a seed long before I realized I would one day do this work myself. I also grew up being the strong one. And I see you nod your head. That strong friend, the dependable one in my family and in my relationships.
Hmm.
But my passion was deepened through my own journey. There was a season when I realized I was showing up strong for everyone else
Hmm.
while abandoning myself. I was leading teams, raising a family,
Hmm.
achieving on paper, but yet inside I felt disconnected. from my clarity, my own clarity from my voice. So, what shifted everything was understanding the power of self awareness and mindset. I began to see how the stories we tell ourselves, often unconsciously, shape our confidence, our decisions, and ultimately our lives. As I did the inner work, my leadership changed, my relationships changed, and I became a more present mother, a more honest friend, a more grounded woman. So, over the past 17 years, I've seen this pattern repeatedly.
Hmm.
So many capable, brilliant people doubt themselves or carry expectations that were never theirs.
Right.
Helping others unlock their potential isn't about fixing them, it's about helping them remember who they are and giving them the permission to lead and live with clarity and confidence.
Okay. That so let me ask you this. With all that said, was there a defining moment that shifted how you viewed your personal growth or leadership?
That's a great question. For me, the defining moment that shaped how I view my personal growth and leadership was when I experienced a transition in life.
Okay.
And it was just transitioning from moving here. So I live in Washington, D.C., and joining the organization I work for. I'm an executive in the federal government. And just navigating being a Black woman in the spaces that I occupy. I work in a primarily male dominated organization,
Hmm.
and I work with all levels of leaders in my role as a leader there, and I'm also a leadership coach there. And so, as I started to talk to different people, and from as a leadership or a coaching perspective, I recognized that everyone was navigating something,
Hmm.
some type of transition in life. It could be personal, it could be professional, but it was something. And for me, being able to connect with people
Hmm.
and being able to help them understand the power that they have within them was a huge shift for me. I was like, you know what? There's something to this. Like, I'm truly passionate about this work. I'm passionate about helping others recognize how awesome they truly are, recognizing the strengths that they have within them, recognizing that sometimes you just need partnership with someone to help you dig a bit deeper. And so, as I continue to connect with people and I watched a lot of people grow and just really walk into their purpose, walk into their calling, that's when it changed for me. It was like, okay, Crystal, this, you're walking in your purpose. Um, and I just continue to want to grow.
And that's amazing when we do find what our purpose is and begin to walk in it. So, I mean, that whole statement that you made, I really resonate with that because, yeah, once you realize what your purpose is and are able to walk in it, it makes your whole life transition in a way you never thought would be possible. So, thank you for sharing that. So as you grew in your career, transitions seem to play a huge role in your evolution. So you often describe transition as powerful opportunities for growth. How do you help your clients reframe moments of uncertainty into possibilities for reinvention?
So, transitions, many of us use that word and it can mean different things. Transitions can be painful, transitions can be exciting.
Right.
Um, Transitions, they don't just change our circumstances, they surface the stories we tell ourselves. And so they're often uncomfortable,
Hmm.
sometimes uncertain, sometimes painful, but they're also very powerful. they're powerful gateways to growth. So I help my clients understand that during transitions, our inner dialogues become louder.
Right.
Sometimes there's those beliefs that I'm not enough. I can't start over. This shouldn't be happening. They often surface, and then I can go on and on with just the different stories and questions that we ask ourselves. So my work is helping clients slow down, become aware of those stories, and challenge them with truth, with resilience, with self trust. I ask questions. So I'm really big on asking questions to evoke that self awareness and help clients remember past transitions that they've already survived and gone through. Sometimes you have to go back to the past and look at those situations and recognize that you were able to move through it. Most people forget how resilient they truly are. And when the narrative shifts from fear to self-trust, uncertainty becomes a space for reinvention instead of something to escape. And so transitions for me are powerful opportunities to grow, but it takes time, and it takes really being honest with yourself and knowing yourself and challenging the questions and the stories that you say to yourself and what you choose to believe as truth.
That that sums it up so perfectly. So perfectly. I can even myself, when you said the stories we tell ourselves and then look back, we have to look back at what we've already accomplished or what we have already moved through, what we've already transitioned through. That says so much. So what are some common fears you see when your clients are facing transitions?
That's an excellent question. So for some of them, it's, am I good enough?
The imposter syndrome.
Yes, yes. Am I good enough? Um, am I going? Do I have what it takes to do the thing? Um, are people going to believe in me? Am I going to fail?
Mm, yes.
And I often say to them, what's the worst thing that can happen? Right. So most of them like, well, it could not work out. Okay. So think about a time when something that you really wanted didn't work out. Hold that thought and then think about what may have happened or what happened after that. Like sometimes the things that we don't want, sometimes the things that we want to work out, when they don't work out, there's often another door that opens that's even better.
That's so
Or
cool. Yeah.
sometimes you learn something about yourself that helps prepare you for that next level.
Yeah.
So it all goes back to self-awareness and being honest with
Yeah.
what you're feeling, because your feelings, they are valid, but at the same time they're not always true.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I like that. They might be valid, but they're not always true. I like that. So, crystal clear transformation, it's such a strong brand concept. So, what does that phrase mean to you personally, and how does it guide the work you do with your clients?
Mhm. So transformation, it doesn't happen by doing more. It happens by seeing more clearly.
Mm.
So crystal clear transformations or crystally clear transformations is deeply personal to me. It took a lot of internal work to navigate the transitions I've experienced in life.
Mm.
Moments where things looked fine externally, but internally I felt unclear or disconnected. So for me, crystal clear transformations means stripping away fear, self doubt, the old narrative so you can see yourself and your path more clearly. When I gained clarity about who I was and I no longer aligned my leadership, so clarity about who I was and no longer aligned with my leadership,
Mhm.
everything just started to shift.
Okay.
So that's how I guide my clients. I don't rush them to answers or quick fixes. I
Hmm.
help them build self-awareness and trust themselves. When clarity is present, confidence follow. Crystal clear transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about removing what's clouding your vision, so that you can fully step into who you already are.
So let me ask you this. In your experience, what tends to shift first, your mindset or action?
For me, mindset. That's what I truly work for, and shifting the mindset, because when your mindset shifts, it controls your actions.
I agree. I agree. So, speaking of transformation, your own life journey has shaped the way you lead. So, your life experiences clearly influence how you support others. How has your personal journey shaped your coaching philosophy around resilience and transformation?
Hmm. My personal journey shaped my philosophy around resilience and transformation. Excellent question. So, my personal journey is one I've experienced a lot in a very short period of time.
Mhm.
I I divorced in 2022, in May of 2022. And in December of the same year, I was diagnosed with breast cancer
Mm.
at the age of 37. And so I found myself in a place where I was navigating so many major things all at once. But I still had to show up as a leader. I had to show up as a single mom and navigating everything in between, like all of the different roles. And so I recognized that there was more that I needed to do to support myself. So,
Okay.
for example, I decided to, seek out therapy and working with a therapist. I decided to open up more to my village, those people around me who I've had close relationships with, but to be honest, Angela, some of them were more surface level. And when I experienced all of those transitions, I needed support. And so I learned the essence of just vulnerable strength, the strength and vulnerability, and saying that I'm not okay. I went on a journey and just really learned more about what it was that I was missing and those stories that I was telling myself and feeling as though I wasn't good enough, or just having that fear of the unknown. And so with therapy, with working with the village, with my relationship with Christ and my church family, I began to just cultivate so much self-love and building myself up to a point where I remembered things that I've had to overcome in life and recognize that this is difficult. I never expected this to happen, but here we are. And I'm a believer that if God allows something to happen, He gives me the grace and the strength and the ability to move through it. And so I found myself, still showing up as a leader, still working in a very high demanding, fast paced career, still navigating my children, and they were very young at the time. And just all of the roles and starting over and, having a cancer diagnosis and what does that look like? And all of the surgeries and the treatments and all of those things. But I just had it within me, this push to keep going. I remember my mother who also she died from breast cancer and how she was just like so strong and resilient. And, stuff could happen, but she would just get up and keep going. And so resilience is part of my DNA. And I work with people so that they can understand that the things that they're facing them for a reason, and they're strong enough to navigate it. They have what they need within them. We just have to believe in ourselves. And we also have to be okay with not being okay at times and seeking help when we need it. And help can come in so many forms: leadership coach, life coach, therapist, family, friends, church, you name it. But we have to be willing to open our mouths and be honest with ourselves and with those around us.
And I like when you say you have to be, or you don't have to be, but you should try to be okay with not being okay, to
Yeah.
sitting with that. And a lot of us don't. We don't sit with it. We're too busy on to the next thing, trying to block it out of our minds. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying dwelling on, certain things that are going on, because you don't want to dwell on it either, but
Right.
you do want to sit with it. And a friend of mine, actually the lady who moved to North Carolina, I talk to her frequently about, things that are going on, and she'll tell me sometimes, Angela, you just need to sit with it. Don't try and push it away. This right
Mm-hmm.
now, you just need to sit with it. So, and that has helped, because once I've been able to sit with it and really think it through, it eventually just passes, and it doesn't snowball out of control. It doesn't keep playing, or they say taking up real estate in my head. It just, it moves on. So, does sharing your story help clients open up about their own challenges when
It
you
does.
share it?
When I share it, it does. So I often I'm very careful in sharing my story,
Mhm.
because for coaching it is truly led by the client.
Right,
And so I'm in service to my clients. And so I don't want it to be about me. However, there are times, and part of what my coaching agreements, I explain to my clients what coaching is and what it isn't.
right,
And um, also, I said there may be times when you may be stuck in a particular place, or I may have some insight that could be helpful based on my personal experiences.
right,
And I asked them permission, if we're ever in one of those situations, are you okay with me asking you in that moment to share something that I may have experienced that could be of service to you?
right,
And I've never had a client tell me no. And when I have been able to open up about my experience, it has helped them tremendously. In
right,
fact, I have one client who, so I'm a breast cancer survivor, and she's a leader and has her own business. And she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And someone introduced her to me, and part of the introduction is, hey, Crystal, she's a leader. She's, serving in this leadership role. She's also a leadership coach. She's a mom, all of the things. And we had many similarities. And the person was like, I really just want you to talk to her to hear about her experience, because she was very worried about, how do I continue to show up and lead at work and run this business? And I'm experiencing all of the things and the tests and preparing for the surgeries, and what does that look like, and What do I need? I had a bilateral mastectomy. And so there's a lot of prep that comes with that you need like after the fact. You need to prepare for it. And so I ended up sharing a lot with her that truly helped her help set her up for success. Like she was able to, okay, I need to have this group of people to help me with my meals. These are the items that I'm going to need for my recovery. And these are some things that I can put in place at work to, let people know that I may need a little extra support and it's okay. And so I've seen it be very helpful to my clients to hear some of my personal experiences. And in fact, that's why some clients choose to work with me because of what other clients may have shared with them or because of some of the things I may share on social media. So I do think that it's important. It could be helpful in sharing my story. But I also am just very careful in doing so because I really want to be there for the clients and do what is going to help them grow.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. I find even my own coaching that sometimes sharing my story, does help them to open up a little more because I guess they see you as more, human and you don't have it all together. You still, and
Right.
because we're all going through some things. I don't care how much work we've already put into ourselves. We're always growing. At least I hope. I hope people, I don't care what age you are. If you're 60, I hope you're still trying to grow in some way and better yourself. So I like that. So in your work with leaders and entrepreneurs, what are some of the most common mindset blocks that keep people from leading with authenticity and confidence?
Hmm. You repeat that question one more time.
Sure, I said in your work with leaders and entrepreneurs, what are some of the most common mindset blocks that keep them from leading with authenticity and confidence?
Mhm. So I find that some of the leaders that I work with are, how do I say it? They have a certain way that they think things are supposed to be. Like
Mm.
some people have this persona that they want to maintain. Um, and like this is the way that things are supposed to, this is how you're supposed to lead. And I challenge them. I'm like, okay, well, I understand what you're saying. I understand this, who you are, right? Based on what you're sharing with me. But sometimes we have to evolve in our leadership styles and our perspectives depending on the group of people that we're leading. Like there's no one size fit all solution for leadership.
Right.
um, it ebbs and flows with just the dynamics of whatever is going on in that particular environment. Sometimes there's external factors, what's going on in the world that plays a role in it. And so we have to be willing to pivot to a certain extent. But understanding who you are and your leadership values are definitely important. But some people, I find that they have the most challenges when they're not clear on who they are,
Okay.
when they're not clear on their values. Um,
Mm.
it's interesting. Some people, they'll say, "Oh, well, I am a transformational leader, or I'm a servant leader," and I say, "Okay." And when sometimes we start to break it down, part of that is true, but then there's another part of it where they I think it sounds good. And so I find that getting them to the next level starts a lot with going back to that self-reflection and also being open to hearing what other people say about them and their leadership. Um, So with some of those shifting of the mindset, one thing that I do with a lot of leaders is I'm a certified leadership circle practitioner. And so there are 360 evaluations. And with doing those 360s, the leadership, the leader, and then individuals who they lead or leaders who lead them and other people are able to answer a series of questions, and then it extracts different characteristics of that person. Like, so it's a strengths-based assessment, and so it helps them understand how they see themselves in comparison to how other people see them. And that is usually a very strong tool with working with leaders and them truly understanding how they're leading,
Mm-hmm.
how other people are receiving it. And so that data helps me a lot in my coaching engagements with individuals, with leaders, as they're trying to like unpack certain things and see how they show up and areas that they may want to pivot and, make some changes to help become more effective leaders. And so it's twofold for me in that I listen to what people say and how they describe themselves and what their leadership styles is and what their values are. But I also work with this tool so that we can get some good data to go by to review and to come up with some strategies so that we could ultimately get them to where they really want to be as effective leaders.
Now, I hear you talk about the leadership portion of it. So, is that the biggest part of your clientele are actually leaders in corporate America, or how often are you working with entrepreneurs, maybe solo entrepreneurs, and how does your technique work with solo entrepreneurs?
So, great question. I work with both. A lot of leaders and equally the same amount of like solo entrepreneurs, small business owners. Often when I work with small business owners, it's a similar approach in that I usually start by working with, say, the founder or the CEO of the business, but then I also end up working with other leaders and other employees within an organization, especially for the small ones, because I find that it's one thing to work with the leader, and that person may really evoke more self-awareness and they make some positive changes, but it's also about working with and training the other people that serve them to understand this new person and how they're showing up and how they're leading, because they're able to clearly articulate, these are my values, this is what I stand for, this is what I want to be able to provide to you within this organization. And so with the small businesses, every small business that I've worked with, I have coached or done some type of professional development with their teams. It usually isn't just them. And sometimes with the leaders that I work with, it could just be them that I'm working with. And yes, sometimes it's a 360 evaluation that's done that incorporates information from the people that they serve or the people who lead them, but ultimately is more so individual based. But with the small businesses, it's usually more of a team approach.
But what if, and I guess I'm asking also, what if, like me, I'm solo, no employees. So what benefits would someone like me get out of, um, your technique or the way your business? I guess.
Absolutely. So I understand your question. So a person like you, I think is great because it really just depends on, where you are in your business
Hmm,
and where you will ultimately like to be with your business. And
gotcha.
so that's the beauty of coaching. And so there are some leaders that I work with, solo entrepreneurs, who their goal is to, scale their business. Like some of them want to expand it and maybe reach a different population. Or some of them may have other skill sets that they would like to develop,
Mm.
and they may have a fear of it, or like, well, how do I step out into speaking, or how do I step out into whatever avenue that they're interested in. And so I work with them to let's hone in on your strengths. Like, what is it that what's your service, and how do we capitalize that? What are you currently doing, and is that working for you? What is working well, and how can we maximize that? Or, for some people, it's other coaches um, who want to kind of pivot within their coaching business. And so we can just kind of focus on that. What avenue are you trying to take? Are you connected with the right resources? Are there other educational opportunities that would be good for you? Do you have a mentor? What type of growth would you like to experience, and what's the timeline for that? And how can we work to be able to achieve that? Sometimes I find that people who, when it's like a one person who's doing all of the things, sometimes they have less time to create
Mm. Yeah.
and just really be strategic
Right.
about what it is that they're working towards and their ultimate goal and vision. I am a very strategic thinker.
Mm.
That's what part of what I do is based on strategy. And so I can sit down with people, as in the coaching capacity. I also do consulting, and we can really map out a plan for you to be able to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And last but not least, it goes back to that self awareness and what mental blocks are in the way.
Mm.
Do you need some other accountabilities that we could leverage to help you? And talking to them and understanding, like, what can get in the way of you being the best version of yourself? What can get in the way of you really growing this business to a way that you want it to be, or having the reach that you would like? And then we talk about that too. Like, what are those things? And if we need to come up with strategies to be able to work through those, if those things were to arise, then that's what we do. But it really is just working with the individual and understanding where they are today, where they will ultimately like to be, what's in the way, and what else can we do to help you get there, because you don't have to do it all by yourself. Often we have resources at our disposals that we're not using.
Okay. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
That answered it very much. Thank you. Because I'm
Okay.
thinking, okay, how can I know? How can I utilize Miss Crystal? So let me ask you this. When you're coaching high achieving professionals, and whether it's entrepreneurs or whether it's, career folk who are used to being in control, how do you guide them through moments of vulnerability and uncertainty?
I love this question because I talk about this often with a lot of the high achieving professionals that I work with. And loneliness is often the unspoken cost of leadership.
Mm.
Vulnerability is how leaders reconnect.
Mm.
And I say that, like, and I live it as well. Many high achieving professionals are deeply lonely in their roles.
Why?
I,
I'm just why? I mean, since you're a high, you're a high achiever yourself, why is that the case?
because there are less people where you are,
Hmm.
sometimes within, say, your organization or what you do, that you're able to communicate with. Like, often the leaders that are at the top, when they're navigating difficult things,
Mm.
some of them don't have as many thought partners as you may have prior to making it to that level. And
Oh,
so, and then they also, sometimes those types of leaders don't necessarily want to talk to their employees or people that they lead about some of their internal struggles, their fears, the vulnerabilities. Like it can be very, very challenging. And one thing that I try to do is create a safe space. And so I start by meeting them as individuals, not their titles, because that's what they're accustomed to. They're accustomed to people like, oh, this is the senior director here. And it's like, I'm human, right? And I'm not talking about myself as a senior director. I'm not, but just as an example. And so through thoughtful questions, I uncover fears, concerns, values, long-term goals. I help them reframe vulnerability as a strength, not a loss of control. We focus on where they want to be, like within the next 6 months to a year. Like with a lot of the people that I work with, especially those high achievers, they want results quickly. So it's okay, we're here today. Like, let's map this out. They want deliverables. They want to be able to have this timetable. And so we kind of break things down, and I would say, where you want to focus on for the next 6 months to a year, personally, professionally, because coaching is coaching the whole person, not necessarily just their role as a leader. We work to identify the internal shifts needed to get there. And my goal isn't to remove their strength, but to expand it through clarity, through courage, through self-trust. And so it's really about building that safety, establishing that trust so that they are more open to being vulnerable. Because I've learned that even for me in my role as a leader and my role as a coach, when I feel comfortable, when I feel safe to just truly, say what's on my mind or say whatever it is that I could, problem that I'm facing or things that I'm struggling with, it's usually met with compassion. It's usually met with, oh, I understand. And actually, I'm glad that you were vulnerable or you were open and trust me enough to share this. I find myself doing that with some of the individuals that I lead. There are some times we're navigating change together. And one thing that people like to see from their leaders is that their leaders are human and that their leaders are impacted by the change that they're experiencing. It's like, we're all in this together. I don't like what's happening, but ultimately, we can process these feelings, but we still have to move forward because part of me and my leadership is achieving results. And so we're going to have to get to this end goal. It's a matter of how we do it, but still holding space for everyone. And so I really do try to help them as individuals and not necessarily just looking at it through the leadership lens. Although both of them are equally important, I try to get them to relax by just connecting with them as a person.
now you emphasize that leadership isn't about titles, it's about the alignment, the purpose, and empowering others. So, what does modern leadership look like through that lens?
So modern leadership, for me, it's more about the person. It's more about connecting and purpose. It's modern leadership is driven in my opinion, and it shifts from manager to coach. It's a partnership. It's connecting. It's understanding people, who they are, what motivates them, what are their values, What are those things that they enjoy? What makes them happy? It also means like recognizing, respecting, encouraging diverse perspectives. I know I mentioned collaboration, that shared ownership. Like we're in this together,
Right.
and that's what I try to express to the leaders that I coach, and especially when they're working with their teams. Like people want to feel like their voice matters because it does.
Mm-hmm.
People want to be able to contribute to solving a problem or strategizing something or anything. Like they want to matter. And so part of with modern leadership and having alignment and purpose and not necessarily focusing on the titles per se, respecting the titles, but focusing more on the people. Um, and my work, I help leaders connect like their daily tasks to the bigger mission, developing others, coaching, mentorship, leading with clarity, leading with trust, building those relationships, establishing those relationships. Because when you start to lead that way, you create a whole culture of other people who begins to take on some of those characteristics.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, your training programs are described as client-centered and people-focused. So, how do you tailor your approach when working with individuals versus working with entire teams or organizations?
So my approach is always client centered. When working with teams or organizations, I partner with leadership. So when I'm working with teams, I will partner with the leadership to understand like what are the overall goals, and I also discuss, any issues, concerns that they're having, any roadblocks. And going back to the leadership circle profile, the 360 tool, I use that to gather meaningful data that guides the development. And so we're still focused, it's still client centered, it's still focused on people because I'm also taking into consideration the whole team itself, depending on which leaders I'm working with. When I'm working one on one, the work is more personal. It may be focused specifically on, clarity for that individual, their values, the mindset, their alignments. Regardless of the setting, though, the intention is the same: help people see clearly so sustainable growth can occur. So that's with individuals, that's with teams, that's with large organizations. It still has the same client-centered approach.
Okay. So, my last question for you, looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of Crystally Clear Group, and how do you see leadership coaching evolving in the next few years?
So there's so much I can say about that, but just a short version, like my vision is to expand crystally clear group. And like I work with a lot of individuals now, a lot of leaders, and yes, some of their teams, but it usually starts with one leader, more individual coaching. I do want to move more into group coaching. I'm finding a space for that. As you go back to the question about high achieving leaders and vulnerability. Like I find that there's a space, that there needs to be more spaces for people to be able to come together with other individuals who are in similar positions, and us working through some of those challenges and just having support together. So I do want to expand to group coaching, create those safe spaces where leaders navigating transitions feel supported and seen. I plan to engage more deeply and through like speaking engagement, workshops for focus on self awareness and culture building. Like self awareness is very, very big for me. I'm sure you, throughout all of the questions, it kind of goes back to truly knowing who you are. And so, leadership coaching itself is evolving beyond strategy towards wholeness.
Mhm.
And I, at Crystally Clear Group, I help clearly, leaders see more clearly so that they can lead with purpose, they can lead with confidence, they can have a lasting impact. And so I really want to expand and be able to reach more people. Individual coaching, I'm going to continue to do that, but the way forward, Crystally Clear Group is going to expand. There will be other coaches working with me who have different areas of expertise because this group of leaders that I want to work with, individuals I want to work with, and creating that safe space, they're going to also need other supports. And I want Crystally Clear Group to be a one stop shop for leaders navigating transitions personally, professionally. I want to be able to have the resources not only for those leaders, but also for their teams, for their organizations, for those small businesses, for those solo entrepreneurs. I want everyone to be able to um, come to my crystally clear group and have whatever it is that they need from a leadership perspective, from a growth perspective, from cultivating self awareness and confidence and walking in purpose and resilience. It's the whole person.
Right.
So I am excited for the future of my business, and I'm just taking things one moment at a time. And I'm excited for the people that I've been able to work with and reach more on that one on one level. But I do want to expand more to groups.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Miss Crystal, for being here. I truly appreciate you coming on, and I definitely the conversation was amazing, and I'm sure there's um, more areas we could talk about. So I'd love to bring you back on in the new year, and have even more conversation about this because it's something that so many people, and not even yours is specifically for leaderships and entrepreneurs, and it sounds more like the work environment, but I'm sure even within that, even with that in that sphere, there's so much more you can touch upon and talk about. So I would love to have you back on in the very near future because, I love your just peaceful, laid back type of interview. So I appreciate you coming on. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Angela. I appreciate you having me. And this has been great. You asked me some amazing questions, and you actually just said something in that. Yes, we focus a lot on what I do with leaders. I'm also a life coach, and a lot of the leaders that I coach, it's a blend of both. Because
Okay.
again, it's the whole person.
The whole
But I
person.
am very passionate about bringing coaching into leadership.
All right. All right. Well, I hope more leaders come to you because there's a lot of leaders. I'm like going, ooh, I'm glad I'm out of corporate America because oof,
Yeah,
they
no,
some of them can be rough.
it's hard out here at times.
All right, thank you again. So, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And this was a beautiful conversation. And Crystal, she really reminds us that leadership isn't just about titles or roles. It's about clarity, it's about alignment, and the way we choose to show up for ourselves and the people around us. So, thank you again, Crystal, for joining me. Please, you guys, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And I will have Crystal's information in the description if any of you are interested in getting some coaching or just finding out more about Crystally Clear Group. I will have her information in the description below. So, thank you again, you guys, for joining us. And I will see you again real soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.